Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. They're all big, but this is a big one. We have our Salisbury City Council president in the house. Welcome, Jack Heath.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me.
So I'd love to have you in this time of year because this is the time of year where you roll up your sleeves and you really do your job, the hard work as being the council president. What are you up to right now?
We are in the middle of the budget process. We have had two sessions, one full session on Monday, and we had our second session this morning, and we have one session left, and things are going well.
What are you finding in the budget? In the budget letter, our city administrator, Julia Glantz, said that there's going to be some tough decisions in this budget. There was tough decisions made to form the budget, right, and she's just passing those tough decisions down to you guys to implement.
Right. Yeah, there are a couple, but let me start off by saying that in general on the revenue line, if it wasn't for the state and federal relief that we've gotten, we would have been in really serious trouble. So on that side of it, we're thankful for those funds, and it certainly helps. The side of it that we're concerned with, to be frank, is the fee side, and there's got to be some work done there. And it's kind of interesting. You know, I got a phone call the other day from a citizen who said, you know, our trash collection fees are ridiculous, and I was almost at that point telling him, look, we're looking at actually raising them. And what people don't understand is that in the city of Salisbury, we charge $59 a quarter. If you go outside the city limits to private collectors, they're paying between $95 and $110 a quarter. So we have never made money. We've lost money every year,
right,
on that particular fee, and significant dollars. And we need to make some adjustments in that area, and there are others.
Well, I know the sewer fees have always been an issue. The sewer's never really paid for itself because you've got this system that's kind of forced on you by the state that will eventually serve a huge geographic area, but you're not at capacity, and you still have all those expenses.
Well, not only that, but in our debt, if you look at our debt analysis. If you remember back, I think it was 3 to 4 years ago, we had a consultant come in and we asked them to look at the funding for that project because we had a $7 million hit out there waiting on a debt side coming due in about 2028.
Right.
And they said, you need to raise the prices, the
now.
fees 12%
right,
to 19%.
Right.
Well, you can't do that to our base with the wages that we have in our city. So we chose to go at a smaller amount, and then we stopped last year. We have to catch up because otherwise we're doing the same thing we criticized previous councils for, kicking it down the road and
right,
let somebody else worry about it.
Right.
So that's going to happen. We're going to have to raise those fees, and then. What makes me feel good is we're finally getting to a cost-based structure where we know and we will know what each of the functions, what's the cost of a permit.
Right.
Looking at it from a business point of view rather than a soft point of view. And then taking into account what we think the people can handle.
I think that's one area that you've really helped as council president, having come from a business background. You know, with a balance sheet and and that kind of stuff, having to do things that way, you're able to ask those questions to these people who are doing government as government instead of government as business.
Yeah, and it's worked out really. It's also good because Keith came out of Keith Cordry, the finance director, came out of the private sector as well, and he and I just hit it off from like day one, and the work that he's done has simplified the process so much. You can look at a sheet when you go down the budget, and he prepares sheets for the council. You can go down that sheet, and it will give you the difference between this year and last year, and then we address those issues that causes that difference.
Right.
If a difference is 1 to 2%, it's inflation. You don't waste a lot of time on it. If you get 15, 14, 10, 12%, then you want to go into more depth, and that's how we're handling it now.
Right. revenues were really affected by COVID in areas you would never imagine, just like parking fees. I mean, you weren't able to charge for parking in the middle of all
Parking
this.
fees, speed cameras,
Right, you turn those off.
turn those off. I mean, it was just, yeah, we got hit very, very hard. Some of that, again, was offset by the relief that we've gotten, but not all of it, far from it.
How are you feeling about, the city's been incredibly active in terms of the COVID situation. You've got Julia doing the daily call still, where she's on Facebook Live. It's incredibly enlightening in terms of what's going on. I think it's been, I hope when pandemic's over, they continue it, because there's a residual. I learn things all the time. I don't have to call and ask her dumb questions. I can just watch this and have a sense of what's going on in the city. But where do you see things headed for the city post-pandemic?
I see us getting back to normal faster than most places. And I think because we really haven't skipped that much of a beat in terms of what we are doing on a daily basis. It's really funny. I've commented several times when we would have a council meeting in the government building. I'd look up and there's my wife sitting in the back, and occasionally one other person would be sitting there. I look at the screen during a Zoom meeting, and we've got 15, 20, sometimes more than that, people participating in the meetings. So that's a benefit. And I think hopefully when we come out of it, some of the people who showed up on Zoom will take the time to come down and come to the building.
Have you lost that sort of feedback from people, do you think, to a degree? I know you're a social guy. You go to all the events,
Yeah,
you talk
I
to
do.
people constantly.
Yeah. I don't think we've lost too much because I'm getting more phone calls than I have. I don't know if they're afraid to come to the bagel bakery in the morning at my office. I'm still going there now. I took some time off from doing that until I got my vaccine. But I'm getting more phone calls, and I just think people are different phases of this whole program. Fear has now left, I think.
Right.
And now we're looking at sort of questioning. And then for those of us who have been vaccinated, thank God, we feel a sense of relief. And then I think once we get to that herd immunity, I think that we're going to see the activity really pick up again.
I'm so amazed when you look at the capital budget this year. What did I write down? It's about $12 million in capital spending. I think it's a little less than it's been previously, but it's more of a maintenance type thing. There's not as many
Yes.
big ticket projects, but we're really going to concentrate on the roads and other things right now.
Yeah, one of the questions that I asked the other day to Amanda Pollock,
Who's one of the best people I've ever worked with. Isn't she amazing? I'm sorry.
I do not know how she remembers everything that she has, but she can get it off the top of her head.
She's amazing.
And I said, not an easy question. I said to her, with the amount of street capital that we're putting in, it's probably the biggest we've done since I've been on the council. And I said, we now rank our streets, and they do surveys, and we're going to redo another survey this coming year. But I said, do you think it's enough money to reduce the numbers down by one, which means that we've eliminated all the fives?
Right.
And she goes, close. I'm like, off the top of her head, she said, yeah, it's going to be close. Yeah. And then through the transparency, I think that helps too, because people can go on the website and they can actually see what's being worked on.
Right.
The website has taken the place of a lot of the calls. And I think that's to the benefit of everybody, and certainly has reduced some of the time that's spent on the phone trying to answer questions. People still do. If they have a gripe, they're going to call.
Right, right. People have said to me forever, like, why are they building all this stuff? Why don't they do a better job of fixing the streets? And I say, if you look at the capital budget, you can see that there's the years coming where they're going to fix all the streets. And the important streets have been fixed. Baptist Street, which is a complicated street where I used to have an office, because there's so much underneath the ground there in terms of that's where all the sewer and drainage in the entire city come together right there. It's a very complicated area. It's not simple just to pave that thing, because there's like 11 manhole covers within 30 square feet there. But that has been fixed, and there have been other streets that have been fixed, but the turns come around and they're very on top of this. It's not like the city's not aware of where the needs are.
Yeah, and you talk about an area that had a need, Fitzwater Street.
Right, exactly.
Parsons Fitzwater, and if you look, that's going to be fixed soon, and it's going to look the same as downtown Main Street, because it is a continuation of that. So I think that people are getting more confident in the fact that what we say we're going to do and when it's going to be done. Now, we went through the mess on Main Street, but some of that was state problems we've had getting
Right.
permits and
Right.
cleaning up the oil from the gas station down on the corner
Right.
of 13 and Main. So, but in general, we're hitting our targets.
You said on this show a bunch of years ago, we were talking about the Salisbury's Renaissance and all the great things that were happening, and you said something like, gosh, I just hope we can keep the momentum. And when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. I hope we can keep the momentum. Like, what am I going to write about? What is there going to be for me to have positive to report about in the community if we lose our momentum? But we have not lost any momentum at all. And
No.
in fact, it's just the opposite.
Yeah, it's really funny. I was in the bagel place, my office the other day. I don't want to give him too many plugs because it's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
But anyway, I was sitting in the bagel place, and they said, "So what's next?"
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I've never had somebody like okay,
Yeah.
I can see what's going on, but what's next?
But
They
7 years ago,
expect
the
it.
attitude is like, why are you doing so much? Like, back off a little bit.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what's next?
What's next? And that made me really feel good because they said, okay, maybe we are doing all right.
So what is next?
Well, there's a bunch of things. We're talking about broadband
Finally, that's important. Yeah.
because there are areas that are close. I mean, we have areas in the city that have issues.
Right.
So it just isn't the rural places, but because we're addressing the entire thing, I think that'll create its own momentum as well. Although the order in which I saw things going to be handled we weren't mentioned in the original first pass.
Right.
But I think that we'll get there. We'll get there. Riverfront, there's still development that we got to do there. I sit on the planning commission, as you know, and we're busy, which is a great sign.
There's great plans too for the park and for the zoo.
Yes, yeah, for the park and the zoo. The hardest thing, the thing that I couldn't understand in the beginning is how we're going to take Main Street under the railroad. And people are going, what do you, it's just, to me, the railroad, the way it is now, is a block.
Right.
It's deep, it just doesn't flow.
Right.
And people laughed, because I don't know if you remember, but I was recommending that they tear down that and put a wooden rail trestle
Right.
open,
Right.
and that never flew
Right. The idea of getting people from the Riverwalk to the park.
to the park.
Without having to.
Right.
And that's the
And
conflict
that little
there.
tunnel, and
Yeah.
it sends from my perspective, it sends a bad message. But we'll find ways of getting around it. And if you look at the development that's been done down there, on the corner, what's the name of the road that goes up to Arby's? That development they put in there.
Commerce Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
Commerce Street, right.
I can't believe I
I
knew
should
that.
know that. I should know that because that's where the starting point for the Chesapeake Utilities
Yes.
project is.
Yeah.
We're doing, we also have Eastern Shore Drive coming up.
Right. I was a reporter when all that was planned, and even I was sitting in those meetings going, if you're building an airport runway, this sounds like a great idea, but you're just completely destroying all these neighborhoods to build a bypass for Route 13. I don't think it's smart.
Well, the draw, if we can bring it out the way that we would like to, the drawings are beautiful. You're going to have a pedestrian way down the middle. It's going to be very, very nice. And then we'll stop at College. And then, so that's happening. So there's a lot in the queue.
Now, you've been called to sort of step up and kind of be the political mayor while the mayor has been away on military performance. You've been sort of like the mayor in a pandemic. How's that going for you there?
Well, Julia, believe me, is doing a remarkable job.
Julia Glantz, our city administrator.
Yeah, we meet just like I meet with the mayor and we have discussions about upcoming things and my observations, and the relationship has been good. She's very accepting of comments and at times criticisms, and she takes it in advisement, and then likewise she tells me and makes me aware of things that might be issues coming before the council. And if you have good communication, a lot of the stuff that usually screws things up is eliminated, because you know what's coming. You have faith in the person you're sitting across from. So that's worked very, very well, and she deserves a lot of credit. Because also she didn't, one of the suggestions I had made and that she didn't take, which I thought would have helped her, she did not bring on anybody next to Andy to support
Right.
while she was performing, because that, you take
Andy
her
Kitzrow,
job,
who's
Andy
the
Kitzrow,
deputy,
who's
yeah.
the deputy city administrator. If you take her job out, or trying to do both jobs, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first things I said is, you're going to temporarily put one of the department. Would be great for a department head, but she chose not to do it. And it really, I have to say, it's like you with the traffic circle. You have these ideas that, hey, it's not going to work.
Right.
And guess what? It works.
Well, as a reporter guy and someone who watches stuff, I was like, oh gosh, while the mayor's gone, something horrible is going to happen, and these people are really going to be tested, and I'm going to have to cover it. And I just know how things go. There's going to be some big crisis, and I'll get to write about how they deal with it. No crisis.
No.
Nothing went wrong.
No.
Knock on wood.
And she handles it professionally. She really does. If you watch the COVID, and we also, I don't know if you're aware, but we have a COVID task force
Right.
team that meets. We were meeting every 2 weeks.
And she's a leader on that thing.
And she's a leader on that whole thing. And that has helped tremendously, because I've always said the greatest thing about the Eastern Shore of Maryland, especially Salisbury and Wicomico County, is when people are needed, they step up.
Right.
And you'd be at one of those meetings, and she would talk about one thing and to say, well, we'll help with that, or we'll jump in and do some of that. The hospital was involved, Junior Achievement, United Way, Greater Salisbury Committee, Chamber of Commerce. So you have the key people there, and they step up. So it's more than just this is how many cases we had. There are actions that are actually taking place.
I'm also fascinated because I watch the meetings so closely. You and Julia and the mayor have always had this ability to let other people talk, even when they're completely wrong. So you'll have a member of your council who will go off about something, and I'm going, Jack, tell her to stop or tell him to stop, because it's just not applicable to what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But you don't do that. You let the discussion go, and sometimes some good stuff comes out of those discussions. But Julia does the same thing, like, everything you're saying is wrong, mm-hmm. It's not true. Everyone gets their say, and then there's a corrective period that follows, perhaps. It's done with such civility and such professionalism. I'm just amazed.
Well, I think, as I've always told every member of the council, you're treated with respect by the individuals because you earn it. And you're not going to know everything. And don't try to bull somebody. Tell the way you feel. But we're held to a higher standard than most people, and we should be, as any elected official would be. We should be held to a higher standard, and if it gets out of line in terms of that, then I would step in.
Right.
But thank goodness I haven't really had to do that, and it makes my job a lot easier. But they deserve the right to represent the people and say what they want, and then it'll all come out in the vote. Yeah.
And with the department heads too, when, I'm so used to in government meetings and even in business, when you have a department head reporting to the higher ups, there's like a drill session that goes on where you're like, there's hostile questions and you're holding them accountable and you're trying to make a point, a leadership point. And I don't see any of that. I just see teamwork.
Well, you get more, if you're all pulling the rope in the same direction, it works. And it's not that people say, well, all you're doing is rubber stamping everything. No, that's not true. If you look at the comments, there are things that never make the meeting.
Right.
from a work session.
Right.
And that's because we don't have consensus to move the thing forward. We don't think we have to have the votes. My direction has always been, if it gets to the meeting and there's going to be a vote, and we're going to handle it, because we've done all the homework. We should have done all the homework in the work session.
I want to talk about the Horizon program real quick.
Yeah.
This is the tax incentive plan to get
Right.
residential construction going in downtown. Big projects of 10 million or more.
Right.
City right out front on that thing, got it right away. Andy Kitzrow had a great plan, great presentation. And it's kind of like the county doesn't seem to get it for some reason. It's going to come up. City's going to do what it's going to do. It'd be
Yep.
nice if the county were to get on board. What are your thoughts about the need for increasing the residential population downtown?
Well, I think that's one of the drivers, one of the key drivers for sure. But I think that there's also, I used to deal with banks all the time. And depending on what industry you're in, they expect a certain return on their investment.
Yes, they do.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And they deserve a
But
return
people
on
don't
their
seem to
investment.
understand that.
They don't understand it. So we were talking about why did we do it? And they said, well, that's ridiculous. Here you're going to give somebody a tax break. I said, we're not giving them a tax break. What we're doing is we're giving them an incentive so that we get the full tax break,
Right.
the full tax
Right.
at a period of time. We're not losing anything because the first year or first 2 years, they're going to be paying what the building is currently
Right.
assessed at.
Right.
So you don't lose anything. It's just going to stay standard. When it kicks in, when you start to gain, is when you'll see the increase. Now, are we going to see the total value the 5th year or the 10th year? No, we're not. But the building is there, is being functional. The bank is happy because they're getting their return. If you tell somebody you're going to give them a 25 or 30 year return, they're going to laugh at you.
Right.
And that's what they're running into. On big projects, smaller projects, they work with you. But on large projects, they won't do it.
Is it frustrating that the county doesn't seem to understand the needs of the city, perhaps?
I have, I'm usually very careful not criticizing the county. But
Yeah, I've baited you to do
but
that for
I'm-
years, and you never have.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm amazed that they don't take advantage of what the city is doing. If I was a county executive or county council person, I'd be pounding my chest every time we finish a project inside the city because it benefits the entire county.
Right.
And I don't understand that. And no one's been able to convince me otherwise. So I don't spend a lot of time concerned and worried about it. I would like to, and I do speak to a couple of the council people and give them my thoughts and suggestions. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to fix things because we have so much going on.
Right.
I want to focus on things that we can accomplish. My dad, I think I said this once before in here, my dad always told me, control what you can control and don't worry about anything else because it's not going to help you get where you want to go.
I shouldn't say this, but the way I measure things a lot of times with political leadership is I try to imagine what things would be like if that person wasn't there. And I have to say, Jack, if you weren't council president in Salisbury right now, I don't know where we would be. You've been such a great, teammate and checker of Jake Day, our mayor, and the departments. They're not going to let you rubber stamp a budget, that's for sure. You always ask those really hard questions. It's not easy to get something past Jack. He's going to get you. He's going to ask the common sense stuff as well as the business stuff.
Well, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. I try to do my job, and that's what I was elected to do. Wasn't elected to be the president by the citizens, but it's been a good run. I'm coming now on after my appointment 6.5, 7 years.
It's as long as I've did the paper. Yeah, you were appointed
Yeah.
right after I started the paper
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah.
So
Actually, next week's our anniversary at the Independent. It'll be 7 years. So I need to collect that over/under pool. I don't think anyone had 7 years.
I have over. So
There was also some big news, and I know this is an awkward subject, but I want to bring it up anyway. I understand your granddaughters have been recognized as some really special athletes recently.
yeah, my granddaughter Caitlin Cashman and Cassidy Cashman, both my granddaughters, made first team all Bayside field hockey. team.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because my daughter Kristen was a
Right.
heck of a field hockey player for both Parkside and for Salisbury University.
Right. And your daughter Laura is all-star
Oh,
athlete.
she played softball and field hockey as well. So yeah, we've got a good crew.
How can people reach you and give you input on the budget? How can you, what do
can
you want to hear from folks?
If you can do it in person if you want to come to the Bagel Bakery in the morning.
He is there in the morning.
Yeah, I am there usually from about 7:30 to 8:30, 9 o'clock.
And he's
depending.
not holding court. He's listening when he's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's good because people are more relaxed, and I think you get you get a good reaction from them. You can also reach me at my home phone 443-944-9353. If I'm not home and I'm at my office or out at an event, I will call you back. There is no, and just I would ask leave a message as to what you're calling in regards to, or send me a message on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter or any of those other things. I'm sort of old school. Took me a year and a half to get on Facebook, so but that's the best way of getting a hold of me.
He's Jack Heath. He's our Salisbury City Council president, and we're so happy he had time to be with us here today. Thank you so much, Jack.
Greg, thanks for having me. I enjoy it all the time.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One on One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One on One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.